Thanks for tuning into this very special conversation on the eve of Diwali. One of the tallest leaders in the world of business globally, Peter Voser, Chairman of ABB Group, joins us right now. In the festive season, Peter, great having you. Thank you so much for talking to us. And it's a great time to be in India.
No, thanks for having me. And indeed, it's a great time to be here. Not just because of the festivity season, but it is a very promising market. And for the last few years, our growth rates here in India have been spectacular. So we are very happy.
Okay, so we call this the new year starting in about a few days. We call it a Samvat, right? So if I urge you to try and crystal ball gaze or try and look back at how the last Samvat, which is the last 12 months, have been like, and on the basis of all that's happening around the world, how do you see the next 12 months to be like? What would your response be?
I think I'm optimistic about the next 12 months, because what we see is actually that the world is on the journey to electrify, and this is in the middle of our offering in ABB, which is electrification and automation. For example, one segment is data center, which with the technology AI now, these are huge opportunities for us. But I think the world really works at the moment in line with our purpose, which is helping or enabling a sustainable and, let's say, low energy consumption world through our innovation and technology. And that has a positive outlook, despite of all the rhetoric that maybe the entire green wave is slowing down. What we see is actually our customers are still kind of investing and spending the money into these projects. What we see on the other side is that larger projects, given the geopolitical uncertainties, including the tariffs, companies are thinking a little bit longer about taking now final investment decisions on such large projects. So that's the one to watch over the next 12 months. But in general, I think the economy, the global economy is very positive. So.
Yeah, well, you've done some landmark things as well at ABB, right? The Robotics division spin-off, and I wonder if there is an Indian implication there. There's also this whole partnership with NVIDIA. I mean, the largest company in the world has chosen ABB as its partner, one of the key things. So lots happening at ABB too. Do you reckon that the slightly slowing global economy, though IMF said that it'll still be okay, maybe better than before, but not quite as expected. But the slightly slowing global economy still allows a multinational giant like yours to chart out growth, which is comparable or slightly better than what you've done in the last 12, 24, or 36 months?
Yeah, we have said we have a target of 5 to 7% organic growth. And to that you can add one or two, which we normally do through inorganic acquisitions, etc. And so we are seeing our target range exactly is in the right range. So we are expecting growth. And the growth is quite clearly driven by, as I said before, electrifying the world. But also with the AI boom, with the data center boom quite clearly, and that's where our partnership also with NVIDIA obviously comes into it. And so from that point of view, I think we are well positioned for what's going on in the world, because you have the demographic challenges, you have got the decarbonization challenges, and with our electrification automation business, we are just in the middle of all of this. And ABB is known for innovations. We are driving that. We are trying to help our customers to be very energy efficient, and I think that increases the cost, also decreases the cost, but increases productivity on the other side, and that's what a lot of companies are looking for. On the robotics side, yes, we announced that divestment. It's one of the businesses which is adopting AI the fastest. It is actually part of our purpose. So from that point of view, there would have been no kind of point to sell the business, but the overlap to the rest of ABB is practically zero. And therefore, one has to think, how do you concentrate the capital you want to spend, the resources you want to allocate in human resources? And we just felt that robotics, either being as a spin-off, which we first had in mind, or selling it to a company who is building a bigger AI and robotics business would give a better future for that business, and that's why we sold it to SoftBank. So.
Yeah, and then just wondering, India robotics has done so well, amongst the best performing pieces for you. How does the India piece, I mean, I don't know if you have some thoughts here, but if you can share, how does the India piece therefore shape up, considering that robotics has done so well, but you've sold robotics at a global level?
Yeah, I think it will do well in India, irrespective who owns it. And this has much more to do with the industrial setup of India, because the, let's say, the robotization of the industry in India is still at a very low level. And therefore, when you look at the vertical industries like telecom, e-commerce, logistics, food and beverage, etc., there is huge potential here to sell or increase your revenues here in India. And the second one is, I think the Indian market, you have a lot of SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises. You have got tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. They may not go for the most, let's say, sophisticated robots, but they may actually need different ones. And we have the experience from China, where we also are offering kind of China-made robots for the Chinese market, which are exactly designed for that group of customers. And I would see the same actually happening in India, and that gives you a huge potential here. So,
when do you see this happening? I mean, India is a country full of availability of labor, but yes, nobody's saying no to, let's say, quote unquote, humanoids or robots. When do you see this thing coming into India in a mainstream way?
I think this will be over the next 3 to 5 years. This will be a key issue, because quite clearly India is also aiming at a high quality manufacturing rather than actually just being a low cost manufacturing. And if you want to go into that kind of segments, then normally you need a good mixture between humans and also robots, because they can really lift your quality. On the other side, also deliver you the productivity. So for India, who has got a huge home market, but wants to be competitive also internationally, they have to go, the industries here, they have to go into the high quality premium segment, and that's where robotics will have a great kind of opportunity. And by the way, also the automation business of ABB, and also the electrification business, because as the world and India will be electrifying with your renewable targets you have for 2030, that will also mean that you can have the most efficient motors from our motion business. You will have smart grids, you will have microgrids, etc. This all gives us opportunities to grow. So I'm very positive about India on the robotics side, but also on our business, and our growth rates over the last few years have shown this, and I expect this to go forward. Because India, in my opinion, has really the next, I don't know how long it will last, but I'm not worried about the next 10 years. So.
Wow, you're not worried about the next 10 years. So the slight pullback in growth rates in the last 6 to 9 or 12 odd months, however, I mean, you can slice and dice the data, yeah, but roughly that period, you think that's more a blip, and the growth that we saw post-COVID could well restart again, you reckon, in India?
Yeah, that would be my assumption. And I think I'm normally not too worried if a high growth country has a little bit of fluctuation in their growth rates. Because it depends a lot on major projects coming in, and you know also the political side, election cycles, they all play a role. So I look at the longer term trend. I look at 3 to 5 years, and there I would, we have experienced a very nice past 3 to 5 years, and I think we will have the same for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay. On the global side, we're seeing large projects come off a little bit, and then a lot of electrification, etc. projects moving up. In India, probably the electrification projects become large projects, right, relative to the size. So is the situation, to your mind, slightly different in India, in that the large projects in select areas, automation, electrification, data centers, energy transition, etc., all of that continue? Or is the picture the same in India as well, that the large projects are slowing down?
No, I would say actually India goes a little bit counter-cyclical here, because it's the sheer demand you have, given the discussions about China plus one, India's own plans to become an X trillion economy rather sooner than later. This all drives it, and for that you will need larger infrastructure projects. If you think about electrification, you need grids. Quite clearly. Now you can build them in a very smart way today. That then generates also other investment opportunities. You are thinking about railways, which is also a business where ABB is in with the traction business. I think that will continue, because otherwise you start to slow down your development in India. So infrastructure is a key element to drive long-term growth, and I don't see this. I think you had some data center announcements earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken, or last week.
Earlier this week, yes.
Earlier this week, actually. I was together with the chairman of the Tata Group on Monday, so we discussed a lot about India. So I think there is very good prospects there also for infrastructure projects. So.
Which gets me to this whole partnership with NVIDIA and what you're trying to do there. And I believe the global best practices that you do anywhere in the world go to all the countries where ABB would be present in. Now, ABB has projects on the data center side in India. I know that. You work with some companies, I know that. There's this large Google announcement. They are partnering with the Adani Group to try and do that as well. How do you see the data center play within India and ABB's role within that?
I think it's a key segment for us. It's today, globally speaking, some 6% of our revenues. We have got very advanced technologies, because I think one of the key issues on the data center side is also energy efficiency. So we are also putting quite a bit of R&D into further developments of our products and systems and solutions. And there again, India plays a role. We have very big R&D centers here in India. So I think we are well placed to serve the Indian data center boom, but also globally. And I think given that the applications now of AI are starting to not only be really used in the B2C, in the consumer space, but also in the industrial space, I think the need for data centers is enormous. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you look worldwide, I don't have the number for India, it's still the smaller part of the capacity of data centers is used actually for the user today. Most of it is still used in the development of future AI applications, language models, etc. And I think the technology in its maturation process is by no means already at the top. There is a lot still going on. And I think here also, given your digital kind of natives you have in India, there will be a lot of startups exploring these areas, and this will need data centers at the end of the day, and it will need electricity, and that goes upstream and also downstream. So from that point of view, I'm optimistic that there will be more. There's more to come. So.
Okay, a view from you personally, Peter Voser. Not necessarily something that ABB might do, but your past experience into traditional energy, now electrification, robotics, etc. at ABB, and we've seen both themes run concurrently, right? The world was almost going all electric, and it's still going at a very good pace. But I think the last 2-3 years and this geopolitical skirmishes showed that the world said that, hey, traditional energy is also going to be important. We're not going to do away with that completely in the next 5-7 years or 10 years at least. How do you see that piece of the puzzle or that pie moving? Do you think both things move concurrently? Does ABB play a role there? But even if ABB doesn't, what is your view there?
I think over the last 2-3 years, the world has become more realistic. Okay. That you cannot switch from one energy system to the next within 5 or 10 years. It just doesn't work. It's by far too complex, too big, and therefore it needs both systems, the renewable side, but also the fossil side, so the oil and the gas, hopefully less coal over time, which we have seen now, but most probably nuclear coming back in. It needs all of them to fuel actually the world. And now we are coming back to electrification. The demand of electrification is going to outpace what we have in place today. And if you then start to kind of change the entire energy system and you want to neglect one big part, that's not going to be sufficient to allow all countries and society at large to actually benefit from the technology. And this is one of the reasons why a few years ago, when we looked at ABB at our purpose, we were very clear what we want to do. So in electrification and automation, we saw these trends coming, and therefore we also divested a few businesses which didn't really, were not part of the purpose, in order to concentrate on these two big revolutions you have in the world. And so that's what we are driving. So very positive for ABB. If I go back to my past, you have seen what's happening in the oil and gas industry. They made a big step towards, let's say, more renewables, but they have gone back now because they have also realized that the world needs it. And it's not just, let's say, the United States, which is now going or balancing it in a better way. It's the rest of the world, it's the same. It's China, it's India. They need all the resources at this stage. We need to take time to build all the rest. And therefore, for ABB, this is we are exactly in those business areas, and we think we can help to build an energy-efficient world, a decarbonized world, but it will take time. Our most advanced electric motors, which we just launched also here in India, which by the way do actually avoid rare earth metals, they're built with different materials. They give you 20, 30, 40% of energy savings. And that's where we can help. Immediately, short term, medium term, you don't need big projects in industry. If you just change what you have, normally gives you a lot of cost savings, and it gives a very positive impact on the climate. And I think that's where, with our technology innovations, that's where we can play a role. But it needs both. I have no doubts about that. I have said this for the last 15, 20 years now. It needs to be a parallel development, which over time, solar, wind will take a bigger share, that's natural. But if you look at the energy system today, and if you look at the last few years, yes, the renewables has come up tremendously, but the fossil fuels have not come that much down, oil and gas. It is coal and nuclear which has come down. So it shows you also the world needs time to change such a complex energy system. And I think, unfortunately, through the war in Russia, Ukraine, and through different circumstances, political circumstances, the realism has come back into the thinking of humanity, and that's needed, because otherwise we will not achieve our goals. So,
interesting thought. This geopolitics and the tariff wars, etc. I mean, and we know that India has punitive tariffs at play currently from the US.
Yeah.
Does that alter plans of global MNCs when they are thinking of their India piece? One, from a perspective of growth within India or India for the world, and two, for the investments that they do into India. Does it alter your plans?
It doesn't alter the plans of ABB. Because we had, during our whole history, we never had a global supply chain philosophy. We always did local for local. So where we sell, we produce. In India, this is kind of 85% of what we are selling here is produced here. It's the same in Europe, it's 95%. It's 80% in the US if you add NAFTA. So Canada, Mexico, you get close to 90 most probably. It's the same in China. So that has always been our philosophy, develop the local supply chain and in a qualitative way, high standards locally, because we see this as the benefit to the longer term. So the tariffs for us are actually not that of a big issue. Now, what it still drives is investment. So if I take India, we just announced low voltage investments, where we are actually expanding one of our manufacturing sites, and that's for two reasons. A, to cover the demand in India, but also for exports into the Middle East, Asia, Africa, even let's say, the eastern part of Europe. So we are using India in two ways, for the local market, but if there are possibilities, we export. And we have got, it's a good testimony also for the skills which we have in India, from an engineering point of view, from an innovation point of view. And that's very important for the future, because I think India will build its economy on both issues, which is local consumption and some exports. And for that you need the high quality manufacturing, because that's demanded outside here from India, or outside of India. And therefore also a sustainability drive is very important in India, because you will not be the right provider or the right company in a supply chain for major multinational companies if you are not sustainability driven. So
that's true, but you don't think it'll have too much of an impact on other companies' decisions? And because if global MNCs take a bit of a pause until the tariff war were to clear, and we don't know when it will, does that give you food for thought about your investments in India, or not quite there also?
It doesn't give us, let's say, second kind of thoughts for India. But if I go more into the general global space, we can see, because we serve all industries, yes, we can see that the uncertainty on tariffs, also other geopolitical issues, that's slowing down, let's say, major kind of investments. Or companies are rethinking and are planning in a different way when and how to invest and where to invest. But there is a second one which is also playing here, which I think has been with us for the last 10 years, and that's most companies are going closer to market. They're going closer to the customers, because there is the sustainability drive. I want my product from the near, it's not near shoring, but I want it out of my region. There is a CO2 issue here, etc. And I think this is also playing a role at the moment. Whenever companies need to make a major capex investments, these thoughts are also being taken into account, apart from the tariffs, etc. So, but we are back into industrial policy territory. Every nation will have an industrial policy. Local content will increase, and this will shape investments over the next 5 to 10 years.
How the world has changed in the last couple of questions, Peter, and one of them is you are sitting in arguably one of the most traffic congested parts of Mumbai, at least if not India.
Yeah.
What would you have the authorities out here do to on the ease of doing business, or policies that can be done to help companies like yours be more confident about India? There is the opportunity, yes, but you want processes as well. What would you have the authorities do, if you have some thoughts here? I don't know if you do.
I think it would not be fair to say that the government needs to do completely new things, because what we have seen over the last 5 to 10 years in many areas is actually extremely well done. And it's the digitalization of the economy. It's the new businesses coming up. It's if you compare Mumbai today to 25 years ago when I came first here, I mean, this is completely different world now. Public transport, or let's say just transport in general, logistics is easier, building new railways. So this is all done. I would still say, but that would apply also to the US or to Europe, making business easier from a bureaucratic way is still something where I think we can go further. But that's not an Indian-only issue, that's a general issue. I think from time to time in India it's still a little bit too complex, but I have to say the ears are open, as I say, on the government side to actually improve and change things. But yeah, it's if I compare it to 25 years ago, it is much easier to do business in India today than it used to be then. So
that's music to the ears. My final question: you've come here around Diwali. I don't know if you experienced a Diwali before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But do you have any Diwali plans while you are in India? it's the best time of the year to be in India, really.
I know, not this year, but I was exactly at the same time here in India last year. I was in Bangalore and in Delhi, in Agra, etc. And there we experienced it because I had a board meeting. As you know, I'm sitting on the IBM board as well, and we had a board meeting here in India. So we had some very nice evenings celebrating, etc. So as you know, we have got in IBM, we have an Indian CEO and chairman. So Indian nationality, but he's American now. So we obviously got into the festivities then. So this year I don't have time, but I enjoyed it last year. So.
The next year or the year after that, whenever you come, Peter, we'd love to host you for a Diwali brunch or a lunch, as the case may be. But thank you so much for joining me today and giving us your thoughts. Really appreciate your time, and all the best with the spin-off, NVIDIA, and all the growth plans at ABB Global.
It's an exciting future, and thanks for having me, and hope to see you soon again.
Most certainly. And viewers, thanks for tuning in to this very special conversation.